So today we're going to go over how to find the inverse of an equation. An inverse is the exact opposite of the equation, so that's what we're finding. So this one is the most simple. I'm going to show you three today types of inverses that you can do, and this one's probably the most simple because there's not exponents or logs or anything involved. So the first thing you would do is switch out all your x's and y's for each other. So instead of f of x, you'd write x, and for all the x's in the equation, you'd write y. So instead of 3x plus 5, you'd have 3y plus 5. Instead of 2x minus 1, it would be 2y minus 1. And so that just makes everything opposite of each other. Then you would multiply both sides by the 2y minus 1. So make sure you put the x on the left outside of the 2y minus 1 and don't lump it in with the 2y or the minus 1 yet until you can distribute. Next step is distributing, and then you would distribute that x, so it would be 2x, y, and minus x, and that equals 3y plus 5. And the next step, you can either move everything to the left or to the right, but you need to just move all the terms that have y's on them to one side, and then everything else, like all the terms with just x's or all the terms that are just numbers, to the other side. So in this case, I moved all the y's to the left. So I subtracted the 3y from both sides, and then I added the x to both sides. You could do it the other way where you subtract 2xy from both sides and then subtract 5 from both sides. So it's either way. Your answers will end up being a little bit different, but they'll both be correct. So then you would pull the y out of the side that you had moved all the y's over to. And then you just divide both sides by what's outside the y. So in my case, the 2x minus 3. And then that is your answer. Make sure you change it to the notation of inverses, which is the f negative 1 of x, and don't leave it just in y equals, because that's wrong, because that's not what the original equation said. And also, if you had moved all of your y's to the right instead of the left like I did, all of your signs in your answer would be opposite of what mine are. So it would be negative 5 minus x over negative 2x plus 3. So that's the only thing that does, but they're both correct. And here are some other problems that are similar and their answers. Notice on, for example, B, there's that extra number at the end, the negative 1. So for that one, the only difference is you would just add that to the left side before beginning, and then everything else is the same. You just have to FOIL the x plus 1 times the y plus 8 when you move the y plus 8 over. So, and that's how C and D are as well. You just have to get rid of that term that's all the way to the right first before continuing. And the next kind is when there's a variable in the exponent. So you'd start the same way where you switch out all your x's for y's. So in this case, the h of x turns into an x, and that's equal to 6 to the 2 times y minus 1, and then all of that minus 3. And next, you would add the 3 to both sides so that the base and its exponent are by itself. So you just wanted to get that 6 to the 2y minus 1 by itself on that side. And now you're ready to turn it into log form. So then you turn to log form, and log form is log and then the base that goes with the exponent, so in this case 6, and then times the answer of the whole thing equals what's in the exponent. So in this case, you just have to make sure that there's parentheses around the x plus 3, because later when you add the 1 to both sides and divide by 2, you don't want to clump the 1 in with that 3 because that's not part of the answer, the original answer. So next, you would just add the 1 to both sides and divide it all by 2. And then you have to change the notation again and make it h to the negative 1 times x. And then here are some more just like that. The only one that could go wrong is letter D, because at the end, when you go to add the 3 and divide it all by 2, you can't divide the whole equation by 2 because there's already an fraction in the equation, the x plus 5 over 2. And so if you divide it all by 2, it would be a fraction within a fraction, and so that's wrong. So instead, you would just multiply the log 8 to the x plus 5 over 2 plus 3. You would just multiply that all by 1/2, which is the same as dividing it by 2, essentially. And then, of course, change the notation. That's one of the most important things. You have to change the y to the j to the negative x, negative 1 times x. And then the last kind is pretty much the opposite of the last one we did. So instead of having an x in the variable, we start in log form and then change it into the x being in the variable. So first you would do the same thing where you change all the x's and y's like we've done on everyone. So it'd be x equals log base 7 times 4y minus 3. And then make sure those parentheses stay on the 4y minus 3. Then you would put it into exponent form. And so since the answer to the log equation is the exponent, you would take the base 7 and put it to the x, and then equals 4y minus 3. And then you would just do simple algebra and add the 3 to the 7 to the x and divide it all by 4. And that's all for that one. That one's pretty simple. As long as you know how to convert from log to exponent form, it's okay. And then just make sure you change the notation from y to g negative 1 to the x. And here are some other equations that are similar. These ones get a little bit different because you can put natural logs in there, which is what d is. And so the ln is pretty much the same as log e. So that's what I wrote on here. Instead of writing ln, I wrote log e times 4 minus 3y. And with those ones, e is the base. And so when you change it to exponent form, it would just be e to the x equals 4 minus 3y. And then it's okay that it has two variables, the e and the x, because the e actually is a number on your calculator. So it's actually already set number. It's kind of like pi. It's just a set in stone number. And then letter B is just like that, same kind of thing where it's the ln. You just have to know that that's log base e. Letter C, since it involves you square rooting the 8 when you get to the second step, when it's 3y minus 1 equals 8. So you have to square root the 8, but a simpler way of writing that would be 1 over x. So the exponent is just 1 over x. Just like if you were to square root 2, it would be 2 to the 1/2. It means the same thing. And so that's okay to be in your answer, the 8 to the 1 over x plus 1 divided by 3. So these are the answers to all those, and you can just pause and write them all down and do the equations. Thank you, that's all.